for joining us today for another episode of our Nonprofit Fundamentals video series. I'm April Kushner, Adam Holzberg, and we're joined here today with Jordan Goldman, who oversees our CAS practice, so our client accounting services department. And so we want to touch base a little bit today with Jordan about bookkeeping and accounting and how our nonprofits could get some efficiencies. So thanks for joining us, Jordan.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay. So Jordan, are there any new technologies and new ways that our nonprofits could be more efficient when it comes to their accounting and bookkeeping?
Yeah, definitely. So something I like to do with all our clients is always try and push automation softwares so we could streamline, make things more efficient, right? And one of the great ways to do that is by using QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online has a ton of tools. It's constantly updating. They're adding new features all the time. And I think there's a lot of things that we could do to make organizations run smoother. And I'm happy to talk about those. So I
So
have
you
a couple.
mentioned QuickBooks Online. Is that the software, in your personal opinion, that you will recommend, or is that, how does that work for you? What software
Yeah,
do
so
you
that's
like?
the one that we usually refer all our clients to. And if they're going onto desktop, we try to convert them onto online. There's a few reasons for that. One is it's the number one probably accounting software in the industry right now. So they just have a big market share. Number two is because it's so big, it has a lot of integrations with a lot of other softwares. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But like, for example, bill pay, right? You have Ramp, you have Bill.com, to name a few. Those integrate really, really nicely with QuickBooks Online. So it just makes the process a lot more streamlined, a lot more efficient, and reduces hours, which is always the goal, right? So you have less room for manual errors, more automations, and more control over the product.
Right.
So
Things
is
like your bank
QuickBooks
feeds.
Yes.
Your bank feeds will
it
feed right over as well.
is
Right.
QuickBooks Online always the answer then, or is there a time when maybe another software would be better for a nonprofit?
So I would say it really depends on the nonprofit, but I would say 9 times out of 10, you could do everything you need to through QuickBooks Online, right? And that also includes, trying to record things for different grants, and you have different revenue streams, you have different cost centers, right? So QuickBooks Online could create different project classes, codes, tags, whatever we need to pull reports by, whatever you're trying to look at, right? So it could dissect information a whole number of ways. And then you mentioned, bank feeds, right? So we always have our clients connect the bank feeds directly into QuickBooks Online. That's so we get real-time transactions. So we don't have to wait for the statements every month before we start recording things. We could do things on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? And part of that is we could create bank rules, right? So let's say a client eats at the same place every day, right? So we could create a rule saying, okay, this is for meals. Let's say, they're paying the same vendor all the time, right? We could have it set up where it automatically gets recorded into the category that we need it to. And over time, that just, reduces the workload that our team or the accounting team needs to do.
So you mentioned bill pay before. Do you want to go into a little more of how that works and the benefits of that?
Yeah, so I'd love to. I could talk about bill pay for a long time. I like to put all our clients on bill pay right away, right? So no longer do we need to send out manual checks or log into our bank to send ACHs. All our bill pay softwares that we use can both send checks out to vendors and also ACHs. What I like about it is that vendors get real-time transparency. So let's say, we upload a bill, it gets approved, and we can go into approvals as well. It gets approved, the vendor gets a notification saying, hey, XYZ approved your bill, you'll get paid in 3 to 4 business days or something like that, right? So the vendor's not going to keep bothering the clients, asking, hey, when am I getting paid? Did you release the funds yet? What's going on? They'll get notifications as soon as they're paid. They also are able to onboard themselves. So a vendor will add their preferred method of payment, their banking information, everything like that. So that takes a lot of the liability and the risk away from us or the client because the vendor needs to onboard themselves. So they're going to put in their own banking information. It just reduces any manual error, reduces the risk of fraud by, someone entering incorrect banking information. And then we could also talk about approvals, right? So approvals is a really nice way to retain control. The way we set it up for a lot of our clients is if we're doing the bill pay for them, right, the client would send us a bill or we'd have an automated email, right, like ap@clientxyz.com or something like that. We would get that bill, we would upload it into the system. We would have the first level review, so we would make sure it all looks good. Then the client would have a second level review. Once they approve it, the payment could go out. If they even want more controls, we could have thresholds, like anything above $1,000 has to be approved by 2 or 3 people, anything below that by 1 person, 2 people. And there's a whole different ways that we could set up these approvals. So that's something really nice about it too.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of our nonprofit organizations tend to have 2 approvals over a certain dollar amount. So it's nice
Right.
that that's able to do that.
Right, and just makes it so much easier because then you could see all the bills in one place, right? So come end of the year, it makes 1099 reporting super simple, right? Because you have everything that you need right there. You could pull a report right from your bill pay software saying, okay, this is how much money we sent out. So it makes that process a lot easier as well.
Yeah.
So how expensive is something like this?
Great question. It really ranges. So Bill.com is a little bit more on the pricier side. I don't have the cost in front of me. But you have to pay per user and you have to pay for the software, right? So you pay for the software and then per user. So it could add up quickly. And it's a monthly fee. Ramp, which is the one I like, is a free software, right? So there's no cost.
Free is good. Yep.
Free is great, right?
Yeah,
free is great.
Can't be
free
free.
Is everyone. No matter how much money you have, everyone always likes free.
Yeah.
And the interface is really nice. So it's super simple to use, very easy. You could also issue virtual and virtual cards, physical cards through it. So it's not only a bill pay software, but it's also an expense management tool. And that can be controlled by, administrative rights or owners. And, if anyone has questions, I'm happy to walk them through about that in more detail. So there's it's a little bit more intuitive too. So that's why I like it. But again, both integrations work really, really well. And there's a ton of other bill pay softwares out there right now. Those are just, some of the 2 that we use a lot at Saks.
Nice. So, all right, so we mentioned the bill pay, we mentioned linking up the bank account, the rules, different automation features. Is there any others that, really just stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, so you can also send out invoices through QuickBooks Online, which I like to do, right? Because then once someone gets paid, right, there's a payment link, a customer could pay right there, and QuickBooks does the reconciliation automatically for you, so you don't need to hop into like another software like Stripe or Square or something else to do the reconciliation. It does that in real time. You can also see who viewed the invoice. You could, make sure the revenue categories are mapping correctly. So that also helps a lot. And then it's also full transparency for all sides. So if there's ever a change into the QuickBooks invoice, the vendor will get a notification. The customer will get a notification, and we will also be able to see when that change was made. So that's one of the ones I like. And QuickBooks is great because it's also, like I said, it has a lot of integrations. You could also run reports fairly easily. You could set up automatic reports. So let's say you have, a management report that needs to go out on the first Monday of every week, right? So you could set that up and, you won't need to be pulling those reports. No one needs to ask you for them. They'll just, boom, they'll go out automatically every week. And you can do that with anything. And they can be customizable as well. So that's another benefit of using that.
What size organizations do you have that are on QuickBooks? Is there a certain point where an organization gets too large to use QuickBooks?
I would say there is probably a certain point, but it's more about complexity than it is about size, right? So if you have a simple organization and they're making $100 million, there's no reason why they still can't be on QuickBooks, right? So it's really the level of complexity and the amount of people that you need in QuickBooks at the same time. But again, the thing with QuickBooks is that there's so many other softwares that it integrates with. You could always connect it and use specific softwares that work best for you that then integrates with QuickBooks Online. So it really depends. I don't want to give a number out, but it really just depends on complexity rather than size.
Yeah.
And you'll know, right? If like reports aren't being run the right way, or if something's a little bit too complex and we can't figure out a way to do it in QuickBooks, maybe that's a time. But again, we could also look into other softwares that might integrate a little bit better, and you could do it through there. So it's really client or entity specific on how we could do that. But again, 9 times out of 10, I really think that QuickBooks Online is the way to go.
Yeah, I think it really does a lot as well.
So, final question. What's your favorite feature on QuickBooks Online? What's the one thing that you just absolutely love?
Oh man.
You gotta pick one.
Okay. I think it's honestly it has to be the bank feeds. It has to be the bank feeds, right? Just connecting the bank and having all those transactions flow in real time makes it so much more efficient for the team. Again, setting up rules makes everything easier. So I would have to go with the bank feeds.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And a close second is the integrations because it really integrates with almost every other software out there that has API.
Thanks.
All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for joining us, Jordan. Thanks for telling us a little bit about bill pay and how our nonprofits can get some more efficiencies by using QuickBooks Online.
My pleasure. And if anyone has any questions, always feel free to shoot me an email. Happy to get on a call.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks for having me.